Coming to you from the TheEoNProject studios, overlooking the vast, pristine acreage of Primrose Village. Greeting from this wooded gem of the Blackstone Valley. You're listening to Experts of Nothing with Mike and Jay.
Wow, that was a good opening.
Oh, what'd you think of that?
You know, it is pristine.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
This acreage.
It's
green.
And it is primrose. What is a primrose anyway?
A primrose?
Yeah.
It's a
Prim.
snooty flower. It's primrose.
It's some sort of a snobby flower.
That's right. That's correct.
Well, welcome to another edition of the Eon Project.
Welcome.
A show that explores the metaphorical porta potties of the world to find the truth and emerges smelling as clean as Irish Spring soap.
Whoa. You know, I enjoy the Irish Spring.
I wanted to ask you, do they still make the Irish Spring soap?
They do. You know, and I'm a fan of the traditional soaps. You know, like Irish Spring, like you mentioned.
I like Irish
Coast.
Spring. Coast.
Just
yes.
regular Coast.
Zest.
I like Zest, and I like the regular Golden Dial.
Yeah, well,
Dial soap.
the Golden Dial is the gold standard for dermatologists. And I had a problem with acne as a young child, and they told me to use the Gold Dial soap.
Well, the reason I like it so much is because I don't enjoy, when I shower, using a soap that leaves me greasy.
Yeah, we talked about soaps last week.
Yeah, I like to be, I like when it's rinsed away, that it like leaves my skin tacky, like it's washed away the oils and such.
Yeah, well, that's the purpose of soap, is it not?
It is. You know, here on the Eon Project, where you can eat your cake and have it too.
I don't even know what that means.
Hey, have you ever had brown bread?
I love brown bread. My kids hate it. I torture them with the brown bread.
What is brown bread?
It's bread in a can.
It's canned bread.
Is that a Northeast thing, or is that everywhere?
I don't know, but I haven't had it in years. I used to eat it
actually
with
not
beans.
It's not that good. You got to put butter on it.
Put some butter, you warm it up, butter.
Yeah.
It retains the properties of the can when
That's
you
right.
take it out.
Just like cranberry sauce does. It's very it's strange.
It's interesting.
So last week we had a great show. We discussed the MK Ultra project, some government conspiracies about experimentations and whatnot. Some good feedback on the show. Some people were interested in those topics, and actually said that they were going to research on their own. I got some fans saying that.
Oh, good.
So good for them.
You know, we had our sponsor last week. We had a new sponsor.
Yeah, I got some bad news.
What's the matter?
We lost our sponsor.
What happened?
Well, you know, as you know, with great fanfare, we released our new sponsor, The Door Store.
Yes.
Unfortunately, during the week, there was a fire at the Door Store. And
Suspicious fire, maybe?
well, I don't know, but Frank, the spokesman for the Door Store,
Yeah.
was actually injured during the fire. He was trying to urinate on the flames to put them out.
He was trying to extinguish it before
And,
it consumed the door store.
Unfortunately, his member was singed.
Oh.
So Frank is out of commission. The Door Store is not operational, and we are in need of a new sponsor. So if you know anyone...
What happened to Joe and Stan? Did they make it out all right?
You know, I didn't hear from Joe and Stan. I think they're absentee bosses. They're not really... Frank is the one that's there. Frank is the one that moves the doors.
He's there. He runs the everyday
He runs
business.
everything.
Yep.
He cleans the toilet.
Sure.
You know, all that stuff. And his brothers...
Joe and Stan just reap the rewards.
Joe and Stan just collect a paycheck, man. And it's not fair.
That's
but
not
anyway,
fair.
so we're in need of a new sponsor. So if you know anyone who needs their business plugged... Or you know what I was thinking, too?
Yeah.
If you want to just hear your name announced on the radio...
Yep.
Or on podcast, just let us know and pay us. And
Sure.
then we'll say your name.
Well, you don't even have to pay us. Just send us an email.
They don't have to pay us.
Give us your name, and we'll create a song around your name. Actually, yeah, that's what we'll do. Give us your name and where you're from.
It's a great idea.
You don't have to give us your last name, just like your first name. Say, like, I'm Gordon from Topeka, and we'll come up with a nice song for you.
Yeah, so go to TheEoNProject.com. That's TheEonProject.com, or TheEonProject@yahoo.com if you want to contact us directly.
Yeah, what are we going to talk about today?
So today is actually a very interesting show. We've been planning for a while.
Uh-huh.
And this is the time of year where the veil between the normal world and the netherworld is thin.
Ooh, and the nether regions becomes thick.
Thinner.
Oh,
Thicker.
yes.
Anyway, so it's almost time for Halloween.
Right.
So we're going to be discussing various Halloween-related topics today.
Sure.
We're going to get into some of the history of Halloween. We're going to get into some interesting things that go along with Halloween. And hopefully, it's going to be an interesting show. I had some fun doing the research for it.
Oh, you did? Because you enjoy this type of stuff.
I enjoy Halloween.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed Halloween, and most people who listen to this type of program do as well. It's just kind of goes along with it.
You know, it's funny. I'm over there. I'm looking at you because I like to look at you when I speak.
I'm a beautiful man.
When you speak, and I can only see the top of your head and your little eyes looking over the top of that mic thing.
Are they beady eyes?
Ooh, it's scary. So I have a bizarre news story I'd like to start with.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Dateline, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Police said a person believed to be a man disguised as a woman in a black dress tried to steal a bottle of rum and cola drinks from a local drugstore.
Was that you?
The store's loss prevention officer unsuccessfully tried to stop the person,
Stop!
who was described as about 20 years old, 6'3" tall, and weighing 300 pounds.
So a 6'3", 300-pound woman was trying to steal rum and
a
coke.
man dressed as a woman.
No, I know.
Big woman.
Yeah.
Police said the person handed the rum back to the store employee, threw the drinks on the ground, and fled after trying to bite the employee when the worker tried to restrain him.
I love it when they try to flee.
So here's a word of advice to all security and loss prevention personnel out there.
Yeah.
If a large cross-dressing man is attempting to steal cheap rum from your store, let him go.
Yeah, that's some good advice.
Yeah, it's not worth being eaten alive by RuPaul.
Who wants to get in a tussle with a 6'3", 300-pound person?
Definitely not.
Doesn't sound like a good idea. Anyway, so we have a multitude of topics today related to Halloween. We're gonna get into them because if we just do the normal stuff where we banter around for a while, we're gonna run out of time.
Well, we can run out of time. Well, we can do a
doesn't
5-minute
matter.
show or a 5-hour show.
It doesn't matter.
We always think like an hour is a good time.
It's, to keep people's attention.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at the midway point, we do have a trivia game
Ooh.
that I'm going to outlay
Interesting.
for everybody.
Okay.
So the first topic that I want to discuss today, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do Bloody Mary, Candyman, and Nostradamus all have in common?
Well, you have to say the name 3 times.
No.
And they appear. No? Oh.
Nostradamus appears with his
Yes.
flowing robes
Yes.
and his hat.
Let's do it.
No. So they all have to do with scrying. Do you know what scrying is?
It's when kids, it's in between screaming and crying, between meals and at bedtime.
That's about right. No. Scrying is actually the practice of staring into a reflective or dark surface with the intention of telling the future or receiving messages of some kind. So it's something that's that's gone on for centuries, if not thousands of years. But recently, it's become more prevalent. It's becoming more of a thing with psychics and with the metaphysical world.
Yep.
Actually, they produce something called dark mirrors now, which is just
Oh.
like it's a dark reflective surface that supposedly, if you stare into it, things will be revealed to you, whether it's visions or the future or messages and so on. And
Is
so
it like made of obsidian?
No, I don't know. It's some sort of reflective glass.
Oh.
That's darker. I don't know. I don't make them.
Okay.
So people swear that if you look into a mirror in a dimly lit room or a mirror specifically designed for this, that after a few minutes you'll see visions. Okay. So as I said, this has been going on, and if you look on the various paranormal sites, it's becoming the latest. It's a cursed mirror and stuff like that.
Is it drug induced or is it?
Nope.
How do they do this?
So supposedly, if you just stare at it, this is what happens. But I was able to find a scientific experiment that looked into this.
Oh.
And there's actually a scientific reason why this happens. So this is what we would refer to as a real.
So is
fake
it
thing.
much like those? Remember back in the late '90s, there were those pictures that you would stare
The
at,
computer generated pictures.
and the 3D
Yeah.
picture was supposed to pop out at you.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it never worked for me.
So anyway, Italian scientist Giovanni Caputo,
Yep,
which
he's
is
Italian.
which is a cool name. He tested 50 volunteers by getting them to gaze at a large mirror in dim lighting for 10 minutes. After only a minute, most of them saw strange, otherworldly faces. 66% of the participants saw a distortion in their own face. Another 18% saw the faces of animals such as pigs, lions, and cats. Some saw complete strangers, such as a child or an old woman. And 10% saw the face of a dead parent. Nearly half of the participants described the images as fantastical or monstrous beings.
I actually have real world experience with this, and I'm not making this up.
Oh, well, we'll share it because it goes along with.
So, and it's not paranormal, but I can vouch for that experiment because, I work odd hours,
Right.
all hours of the day and night.
Well, when one works at a 24-hour adult bookstore,
Correct.
you have to keep those weird hours.
That's right. So sometimes I find myself sitting in a darkened parking lot, staring at the tree line.
Yep.
The woods and such, right? And as you're staring at the woods and you become a little groggy and you've been staring at the same place for long periods of time, I start seeing faces in the shrubbery and in the trees and things like that.
Of course.
Yeah.
So actually, so you want to hear the scientific experiment results?
Yep.
So Giovanni Caputo, I like to say that.
Oh.
Just cool how you say that. It's called he discovered something called the Caputo effect. Well, that's it called because he named it after himself. Scientists like to name stuff after themselves. So, neurons in the eye reduce or stop their signals when stimulation is unchanged, resulting in all or a portion of a person's reflection disappearing until the eye blinks or moves involuntarily. So basically, neurologically, the image is refreshed, but not completely. So what happens is your mind fills in the image according to what you expect or what your experiences are. So if you expect to see something weird, you're going to see something weird. Because when an image hasn't changed for a certain amount of time, it's all part of a refresh rate in your brain. So for all intents and purposes, it's true. You do see things, but it doesn't mean that it's paranormal in nature. You're just seeing things.
Well, it does.
It's a brain playing trick
depending on who you are. It could be.
No, it's all part of the Caputo effect.
No, you're ruining it. You're ruining this whole story.
I'm sorry.
I want Candyman to come out at me.
How dare I? Candyman was a. I never got into Candyman. I didn't think it was that good of a movie.
It wasn't scary either.
No, it's just some guy.
Creepy.
What was his name? Tony
Robbins?
No, kind of like Tony Robbins' banana hands. He's got big banana hands.
Oh,
his hands like a bunch of bananas.
Tony Robbins
coming to get you. Yeah, Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah,
he's scary.
He's weird.
I watched a documentary about him. Very interesting. People pay thousands of dollars to hear this guy talk, and he's a compelling speaker. But Tony Robbins, the what do you call him? A self-help guru.
Tony Robbins would make a great Halloween mask.
Yeah,
they could.
He's scary looking. He looks kind of like Herman Munster.
Yeah, he looks like the evil guy from Cobra.
He does look like the evil guy from Cobra, the head of the evil axe cult.
Yep, that's right.
Anyway, so that was my story about scrying. What it has to do with Halloween is more, this is the time of year where people start saying, oh, you go in the bathroom at night and you stare into the mirror, and that so that Bloody Mary experiment actually is true. You will see something, but it's because of your brain.
Oh, so you won't actually see Mary come out and it'll be a bloody.
Well, if you're expecting that, you might.
Well, it depends on how. I mean, you could.
What if I wanted to see a giant double cheeseburger because I was really hungry?
Yeah, you eat those a lot.
No,
you don't.
No.
Oh, all right.
I wish I did.
How about we talk a little bit about Halloween itself?
Let's do that.
A little bit about the origins of Halloween. Why do we celebrate Halloween as we do today?
I don't know.
Well, Halloween, it's also known as All Hallows Eve. Ooh. And if you didn't know that, that's another name for it. And obviously, it's celebrated on October 31st. And why is it celebrated on October 31st?
I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to tell us.
Well, we're not really sure about its specific origins, but we know that it stems back to the Celtic traditions, the pagan traditions, different things that they would celebrate along that time frame.
Right.
Which is why All Saints' Day is the following.
Well, isn't it true that the church instituted All Saints' Day as a counteraction to the pagan holiday, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And in the Catholic Church did that with a number of holidays, including Christmas.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. Yeah. Isn't it true that for those of you who do believe in Jesus as the Son of God and was born and all that stuff, Christianity, that they have no idea when he was born, or if they did, it was in the summertime. It had nothing to do with December.
Actually, believe it or not, they have reason to believe that it could have been in the early spring because of certain celestial events that were occurring at the time, and shepherds and their flocks, and then when they talk about that stuff in the Bible and stuff like that. So what the Catholic Church tries to do is tries to supplant the pagan holidays. So
I like that word, supplant.
Yeah. So for Christmas, it would be the pagan holiday celebrating the winter solstice. So they say, hey, let's make Christmas around the same time, try to convert people to Christianity. But going back to Halloween,
let's do Halloween.
Same principle applies there.
Okay.
Right. So its origins, as I stated, ancient Gaelic festivals known as Samhain or Samhain. But not Samhain.
Wasn't it? It's spelled Samhain, though.
It is. It's spelled Samhain, but it's not pronounced that way.
And you have all these you have all these uppity Gothic people that go, it's pronounced Samhain.
Oh, Samhain, yes.
I know all
I know it all.
Yes.
Yes. So that's actually derived from an old Irish term, which roughly translates to summer's end.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Which kind of makes sense. And the festival of Samhain, not Samhain, celebrates the end of the lighter half of the year and the beginning of the darker half, and it's sometimes regarded as the Celtic New Year. Is it Celtic or Celtic?
It's Celtic.
It's Celtic?
Yeah.
So why do we say Boston Celtics?
It should be Celtics.
It should, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should.
But we should say Celtics. Is it Celtics?
No, that means they play the cello.
Oh.
So it's different.
Like Yo-Yo Ma?
Yo-Yo Ma.
The summer days are longer and warmer than winter.
Yes. Where are you going with this?
So the ancient Gaels believed that the border between this world and the other world became thin on Samhain. So this time of the year, that veil, as Mike alluded to earlier, becomes very thin.
The veil.
And you can see
behind the veil.
It's harmful to pass through the veil. It's believed that they need to ward off harmful spirits, so they used to come up with these homemade masks of such. And they would put them on, and they would try to ward off evil spirits and things.
And then they carve turnips.
They did carve turnips, and so it's kind of hard to carve a turnip.
Yeah, they're hard and dense vegetable.
But as we know here in America, pumpkins are prevalent around this time of year. They grow all over the place. There's pumpkin establishments that have various pumpkins of sizes and shapes.
Do you enjoy pumpkin?
It's funny you mentioned that. I had a pumpkin cheese spread this morning on a bagel.
Yeah, I've had that too. It's like cream cheese, like the pumpkin spice.
Oh my
But
God.
the thing with pumpkin spices, it has nothing to do with pumpkin. It's the pumpkins. It's the spices that they use in pumpkin pie. So
Yes.
like nutmeg and
Right, because if you just
cinnamon
if you just
and all
carved the pumpkin and ate
It doesn't taste
the
good.
internal ingredients
No.
or the internal pieces of it.
no,
No,
the mash, if you will.
the pumpkin mash.
So that's why we celebrate Halloween, right? It was descendant from the Celtic tradition,
That's true.
and throughout the years, things were added to the mix as far as trick or treating and
Oh
things
yeah,
of that sort.
yeah, absolutely.
Were you going to talk about that?
Well, I mean, there's an aside here for you if you want to go into your next topic.
Well, my next topic has something to do with Halloween. Obviously, what could be more Halloweeny
Yeah.
than witches?
You said weenie.
I know.
Yeah.
Halloweeny.
Yep.
What could be more Halloweeny? So I have a question for you.
Sure.
Now, we live in the Northeast, and we kind of take this place for granted. But for those of you who are listening across the country and across the world,
Yep.
Salem, Massachusetts is the world witches headquarters, if you will.
It is, yes.
And the reason for that is something that took place in 1692, and it was known as the Salem Witch Trials. Now, a lot of people know about the Salem Witch Trials and everything like that, and I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of the Salem Witch Trials, but something that has bothered me through many years, as I said, living here, I've been to Salem many, many times, and word of advice, public service announcement, if you want to go to Salem in the month of October, you better make your plans in advance.
You better.
Because, number one, the place is hard to get to. It's right on the coast. There's no direct route to get there. You got to go on these back roads and stuff. And there's no parking anywhere. Once you get there, it's wonderful. It's terrific time. I recommend everybody do it. If you're a fan of Halloween, definitely go. But you got to make your plans. Get there early. Stay a couple days if you can, because there's tons of stuff to do and see. But anyway, so what's bothered me throughout these years is that it's widely accepted that the witches or the people that were put to death were innocent. Would you say that that's correct?
That's the general idea that, yeah, exactly.
What if they weren't innocent?
What if they were real witches?
What if they were in league with the devil?
Oh,
Imagine that.
that's possible.
So January 1692, this is when all this started. The daughter and niece of Reverend Samuel Parris of Salem Village became ill. When they failed to improve, the village doctor, Mr. William Griggs, was called in. And his diagnosis was bewitchment, because that's what you think of first, right?
Oh, yeah.
When somebody's sick, you think of that they're bewitched.
That's right.
That's
That's
what
that's the catch-all. And nowadays the catch-all is it's just stress.
No, yeah, or they say give you antibiotics. That's what they give you antibiotics. So he diagnosed them with bewitchment, which put in motion a bunch of forces that would ultimately result in the death of hanging of 19 men and women. In addition, one man was crushed to death. 7 others died in prison, and the lives of many, many more were irrevocably changed. That's it in a nutshell. And like I said, it's widely accepted that the whole thing was a mass hysterical event brought on by misguided religious beliefs that ended up in the deaths of many innocent people. But what if the facts were wrong? What if the witches of Salem were actually witches, and the villagers of Salem were justified in fearing them? The whole episode started. Do you know how all this started?
Somebody was one of the kids was like having a fit, weren't they?
Yeah. So the whole thing started when the little
Tituba.
Paris girls got sick. That's right. When they didn't get any better, blame started to shift around, like I said before, but it began with the Paris family slave, Tituba. Not much is known about Tituba's life in her early life, except that she was born in an Arawak village in South America, where she was captured during her childhood and taken to Barbados as a slave.
So she wasn't African.
No, she was not African. She was from South
Never been to
America.
Barbados.
I was going to say,
either.
you ever been to Barbados?
Nope.
I heard it's nice.
Oh, I've
Well,
had
probably
rum
not
there.
anymore.
I've had
Just-
Barbados rum though.
Is it Barbadosian or Barbados?
Barbadosiana.
Barbados.
Just like that.
Anyway.
Oh,
So the Parises bought her in Barbados and brought her to America.
okay.
Isn't that nice?
Why did they do that?
Well, that was part of what happened back then.
Oh,
So in November 1689, Samuel Parris moved Tituba and the family to Salem after he was appointed the new minister of Salem Village. Court records indicate that when the Parris' daughters became experiencing strange fits and complaining of pain, Tituba and her husband John, who was another slave, helped a neighbor by the name of Mary Sibley bake a witch cake. You know what a witch cake is?
yeah. It's a cake that's in the form of a hat.
No.
and has green icing.
No, that's not right. Oh, maybe. But a witch cake was a cake made from rye meal and the affected girl's urine, and it was fed to a dog, in the hopes that it would reveal the name of whoever was bewitching
Who did
the girls. Tituba and her husband.
Oh, no wonder why they get burned at the stake.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Okay, so here you have that's clearly a Santeria voodoo-esque experimentation that they're trying to do. So Tituba, soon after this, was arrested and actually confessed that the devil had come to her and made her serve him. Tituba went on to describe conversations that she had with evil pigs, dogs, and rats, who all ordered her to do their bidding, and said she personally witnessed Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, who were two other people that were.
So she's not helping her case at all here.
No, she personally witnessed these two Sarahs, who were also accused of witchcraft, transform into strange winged creatures. Is it winged or winged?
Winged.
Winged. Obviously, this could have been a confession that was obtained under duress. You know, they didn't have Miranda rights back in the day,
definitely
or
not.
anything like that. You pretty much just beat someone until they confess to things. But what if it wasn't? What if Tituba was practicing voodoo as she indicated, and she was involved with a group of like-minded people, like those two Sarahs that I mentioned? Who knows? At the conclusion of the trials, Tituba was sold, and actually no one knows what happened to her. She spent some time in prison, about a year, but they didn't put her to death.
They didn't burn her.
Nope.
They burned everybody else, or
Well, they
killed
didn't burn
everybody. Not
anybody.
burn, but you know what I mean.
That's right.
Yeah.
So is it possible that Tituba shared the practices of her native lands with some impressionable girls who made the whole thing up? Absolutely. But can you say for certain that there was no witchcraft taking place? No, because you actually do have witchcraft taking place.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. You know, even going back that far, young teenage girls are impressionable. They like to experiment with different things.
That's right. And you know what, too? There's a movie came out last year, or the year before, called The Witch, which was a period piece around the same time. It's not related to the Salem witch trials, but it has many of the same themes.
Yeah.
Very good movie. Not like a horror movie in the traditional sense. I'm going to talk about some more horror movies here in a little bit. But so it isn't out of the realm of possibility that some witchcraft was taking place. Now, should they have responded the way they did and put people to death? No. But that's how they did stuff back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So
anything that was against the church,
right?
Oh man, you're in trouble.
So that's the thing. I think that there probably was a mix of both. I think that some of the people who were accused obviously were completely innocent, had nothing to do with anything. Some of them probably did have something to do with at least dabbling in the occult.
You know, in research for this this show, I found an old legend that would allow you to summon a witch.
Really?
Yes, and they used to say that on Halloween at midnight, if you took off your I'm being serious. If you took off your clothes,
all right,
and you turned them inside out and put them on inside out, and then walked backwards at midnight, a witch would appear, and it would fly across the sky.
Well, let me ask you this: is it midnight on the night before Halloween, or midnight Halloween night?
No, Halloween night into midnight.
So the night before Halloween into Halloween,
like 11:59 midnight, the 31st.
Oh no! See, that's actually the first, because you're talking about the next day.
Oh, maybe it is the other.
So
night.
you don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't know, but if you did that, it would work.
Why don't we try it?
So we'll try it both times.
Why don't we have a listener challenge and see if anyone can do it, and then report back to us and tell us if it works.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so that was my my piece on the Salem witch trials.
Interesting. So where does, we go out there, we've all been trick-or-treating as kids, right?
Sure.
We've been out there, we've had fun. You go out there, you go to ring the doorbells, you get the treats, and you get the costumes on and all that stuff.
The treats.
Get all kinds of stuff, right? So where does the trick-or-treating come from?
I don't know.
So before I tell you that, I got to give you a quick story. So the neighborhood I used to live in, just recently actually, is quite the festive time. Halloween
I will say
time.
that's a very nice place to be on Halloween.
They close down the streets. Yep. There's kids everywhere. So the first year that I lived there, I didn't really know what to expect in terms of the Halloween turnout, right? Mm-hmm. So you go ahead, you get yourself a couple bags of candy, and hand them out to the kids. So within the first hour, I was running low on candy, and I was panicking. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to just turn the light off. That wouldn't have been fun.
So you started to whittle some carved figures to hand out to... Oh, no, you didn't have
No,
time
so
for
what
that.
I did was, as the kids approached my door, and they did the old trick-or-treat thing, I would take I had a bowl with the candy in it. I'd take the candy out, and then I'd put my hand deep down in their bag, and I'd rustle my hand
You did not
around.
do that.
I did. I'd rustle my hand around like I was dropping in tons of candy, and then I'd pull my candy back out without them, unbeknownst to them, and then they just go about their day. So it saved me.
So you defrauded children.
I did. It saved me for another like half hour, 40 minutes
that's pretty bad, man.
candy.
You just admitted to a crime.
No, it's not a crime.
No, it's not.
my candy.
You know what's funny? This reminds me of a story that an avid listener from the southern United States, who actually I just spoke with a couple of days ago, told me a story once where a friend of his also ran out of candy, and so what he started to do was distribute frozen vegetables from his freezer. So he was handing out
turnips?
like a handful of frozen peas, stuff like that. So
That's a pretty good one,
he was
too.
making some people
Hey, you
upset.
got to improvise,
You
right?
got to give him something.
So where does the term trick or treat, where does all this come from? So the trick, obviously, it's an idle threat to perform mischief on the homeowners of the property if no treat is given. So if you ring the doorbell and somebody opens the door and you say trick or treat and they don't give you a treat, then you can cause mischief to their property.
So it's open season on them
Right.
if they don't give you something.
So that practice of dressing up in costumes and begging door to door, or ritual begging as we would call it,
Ritual begging.
for treats on holidays, that dates back to the Middle Ages and includes Christmas wassailing, which was kind of a similar thing.
The wassail song.
Ah, can you sing that?
I don't know the. And then you wanted to, and then me wanted to. That one?
Yep, exactly.
Got it.
Trick or treating, it resembles late medieval practices of souling, when poor folk would go door to door on Hallowmas, which is actually November 1st, receiving food in return for prayers for the dead on All Souls Day. So that's
So they're holding their prayers hostage until you give them something.
That's right. And as we talked earlier about masks with the Celts, that's where that came from. They would wear the different costumes to placate the pagan gods, basically.
I see.
Yeah.
So in this country, the act of playing tricks on people who don't give you something, does that still go on? Because I remember there's egging, toilet papering of homes.
Yeah, you got to do the TPing on the house there.
You know what? If I was going to throw eggs at someone's house, it would be the guy that gives you the raisins. You know, they give you the little box of raisins.
Yeah, yeah. Ugh. You know, I egged a friend of mine growing up. We were riding our bikes through his neighborhood.
Yeah.
His name rhymes with Beef. And him and I we went to the local food establishment and bought a dozen eggs.
Food establishment?
And we egged a photomat. Remember photomat? The little
I do.
the
Yeah,
huts?
the little hut that if you
It's fine. Yep.
if you block the little hole where you do the transactions, they die of suffocation.
That's right.
That's how small those
the
things
little photomats. And then we egged a place called Jig's Bar or Jig's Cafe.
Jig's Cafe, yes.
I don't think it's there anymore.
You know, I remember distinctly, and I don't know if this is the case everywhere in the country, but on Halloween they would not sell eggs to kids.
No.
You had to be an adult to purchase eggs.
That's right.
Because of all of the shenaniganry.
So the modern tradition of trick or treating, it's actually it stems back to Kingston, Ontario. And so for those people who think that Canadians don't attribute anything or contribute anything to society, that's not true.
Well, that's not true. We actually have a lot of listeners in Canada, so thank you.
So 1911, that's when that occurred.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So they started with that back then.
Oh. So trick-or-treating has evolved throughout the
It
years.
has evolved.
What you're
It
saying.
has evolved, and as I said recently, it's a fun time. And there's a new tradition going around where I noticed that parents going through the neighborhood, they have a like wagons, and they drag the wagons around, and it has coolers in it, and they bring alcoholic beverages throughout the streets.
That's a good idea.
And it's the one time where it's legal to drink in public, I guess.
What is the age of no more trick-or-treating? Like, at what point you say to somebody, look, you're old enough, there's no more trick-or-treating?
Well, I continued probably till I was about 32, and
Well, you're also a very small man.
I'm tiny.
You were back in the day. You're growing nicely, though.
Oh.
But anyway.
Thank you.
I don't know. I think maybe like around 10 or 11, you start going, you're a little old.
Well, you know what
no
you have
more-
to do
no more
is
for that.
you bring various masks with you.
Oh, you just change them out?
You change a mask from house to house, and you can go back to the same house several times.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, we're about the halfway point of the show.
Yep.
And we're going to discuss here in a moment, after a short break, we're going to be playing a trivia game, Halloween-related trivia game, where Jason will attempt to answer some questions that I have constructed, and you can play along at home. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the TheEoNProject. That was a great break that we just had.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Did you get everything out okay?
I got a lot of things done during that short break. So we're at the halfway point in our show where we normally do something of fun nature.
Oh.
So today we're going to do a Halloween trivia contest.
I'm a little nervous about this, actually.
Now this is a one-way contest, whereas in the past we've gone back and forth with questions. But I have all the questions today, so I want you to play along at home, and I want you to report your results back to us.
No Googling anything.
Don't Google anything. So the premise of the Halloween-related trivia game today is this. I'm going to read you the premise of a horror film. You have to tell me what the film is.
Ooh.
So as an example, This doesn't count now. This is an example.
Okay.
A young FBI cadet must confide in an incarcerated manipulative killer to receive his help on catching another serial killer who skins his victims.
Well, that's Silence
That
of
would
the
be
Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs.
Ah.
So that's how this game works. Now, it sounds like it would be very easy.
It's not going to be.
Probably not. Now, I did not select anything that was obscure.
Okay.
These are all mainstream films that have to do with horror or Halloween or horror.
All right, I got to get the. I can't embarrass myself here. So let's see how this goes.
So these are all, as I said, related to Halloween. So play along at home if you can. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
An amusement park mogul offers a group of diverse people $1 million to spend the night in a haunted house with a horrifying past.
Is that Kiss in the Phantom of the Park?
No.
No.
Is that your final guess?
I've never heard this movie.
You have it. It's actually been remade. It was an original movie and then it was remade in the 90s.
Oh, a remake?
Yep.
Oh, so it's originally what, from like the 50s, probably, right?
From the 50s or 60s, 50s, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on that one, friend.
The answer? House on Haunted Hill.
Nope, never saw it.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
But see, here's the problem.
It's a good
I've
movie.
never seen a lot of. I haven't seen a lot of horror movies. Mm-hmm. Some original like old school movies I have. All right.
Well, they're playing at home too, so don't discount that.
Oh, okay.
Don't discount that.
All right.
Okay, ready to go?
I'm not doing good, but go ahead.
Question number 2.
Yeah.
The lone survivor of an onslaught of flesh-possessing spirits holes up in a cabin with a group of strangers while demons continue their attack.
That's let me think about that. That's Scooby-Doo and the circus comes to town.
No. The answer is The Evil Dead 2.
Never heard of it.
You never heard of Evil Dead?
Nope.
Okay, well, those were the two that you probably wouldn't get. So,
all right. Those are obscure.
No,
you
those are
gave
not
me a
obscure. Those are
sequel.
very,
You gave me a sequel.
yeah, The
You can't
Evil
give me a
Dead 2
sequel.
was the more popular of the ones.
Wow.
You don't know.
All right.
Anyway,
Try again.
this one you should get this one. Ready?
Oh my god.
Question
This is
3.
terrible.
Question 3. 2 strangers awake in a room with no recollection of how they got there or why, and soon discover they are pawns in a deadly game perpetrated by a notorious serial killer.
Oh, that's is that Saw?
That's Saw!
Oh!
Correct! Yay! Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. Finally.
Ding. You got one right. See?
That was Carrie Elways was in that, right?
Carrie Elways and Danny Glover. I don't know.
I'm Danny Glover.
This is world famous actor Danny Glover. Anyway. So, ready for number 4?
I'm ready.
This is 5.
One for 3.
This is 4. This is 5 questions.
Okay.
This is number 4. A man who specializes in debunking paranormal occurrences checks into a fabled haunted room in a New York hotel and confronts genuine terror.
Ooh, is that 1408?
1408.
Oh,
yes.
John
Ding, ding,
Cusack.
ding, ding.
I hate that mother.
Actually, that's a good movie.
I don't like him.
Why don't you like John Cusack?
I think he's a horrible actor.
Really?
And I think part of my hatred goes to the fact that my wife likes him.
Like physically likes him?
She's
or-
obsessed with the guy. She loves him for some reason. I'm like, he's goofy looking.
He is not an attractive man. He's
not smart.
in my estimation.
He's
How do you know he's not
he
smart?
smells. I heard.
How do you know he smells?
I know. I heard.
What does he smell like?
Mothballs
All right, so this is a bonus question, right?
and Charisse.
You're playing at home.
Yep.
This is slightly unrelated.
Okay.
A buffoon has to return to elementary school to prove to his father that he can run the family business.
Oh, it sounds like Billy Madison.
Billy Madison, yes.
Ah, I got it.
Miss Lippy's car is green. Anyway,
I just pinged into the mic.
pinged
Sorry.
into the mic. Well,
Is that it?
Hopefully that's it. Hopefully you had some fun and played along with us,
Okay.
and we're able to get some of those.
Yeah. No, I didn't do so good, but better luck next time, I guess.
Well, horror movies are weird. It's like if you just stick to the standard script, it's hard to know what film it is. Like a masked killer stalks co-eds.
You know what was a great horror movie that we watched as kids that we loved? Was Witchboard.
Yes, I was a big fan of Witchboard. I thought it was the scariest movie ever
Yeah,
made.
but if you go back and watch it now, I bet you it's terrible. I
It
bet you it's awful.
Didn't it have Tawny Katane in it?
No, I had that guy from he was the blonde guy he used to be on Days of Our Lives.
I had Tawny Katane.
His name was Patch.
No, I don't know.
And he was in that. But he didn't have a patch on in the movie.
I don't know that one.
Oh, all right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so what's the next topic?
So, obviously, we're going to continue the Halloween theme here.
Yes.
So, let's talk about a little bit about Halloween superstitions,
Oh,
right? Like black cats, for example.
yes.
Why are black cats evil? Where did that come from?
I'm sure that I don't know.
Well, at one time it was believed that all cats with a black coat were actually the devil or eaten up by evil spirits.
There's lots of devils then, because there's
Lots of
black
black
cats
cats.
everywhere.
Black cats were actually hunted and burned on Easter. I don't know if you knew that.
Wow, that sounds like a great religious tradition. Hey, let's go grab some cats and burn them.
Yep. In Britain, actually, but they believe that white cats are bad luck.
Oh.
So if there's anybody in England that could verify that,
I would like to know.
let us know. And here's an interesting one, nuts.
What about nuts?
Old British Halloween superstition is that people at one time believed that Satan was a nut gatherer. So on Halloween night, nuts were used as magic charms.
I'm not going to go there.
You gather nuts, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So
with great frequency.
I think they're like, you ever have the Halloween, or excuse me, the traditional holiday nut platter? You know, you go to these Halloween parties and there's like a bowl with various nuts in it.
I don't like weird exotic nuts. I don't like to have like the ones that you can't crack, like the Brazil nuts.
Oh, those are tough. You need the crackers to get into those.
You need a big cracker for the Brazil nuts, and then there's always weird nuts. You don't want to eat one and then not know
What's the nut that looks like an acorn?
An acorn.
No. Is it a hazelnut? Do those look like acorns?
Hazelnut. Maybe. I don't like any sort of exotic nut. Peanuts are fun. Like mixed nuts are okay. Cashews.
You like a cashew?
I like a good cashew.
Do you call it pecan or pecan?
It's pecan. A pecan is what you keep in the back of your car for long trips.
Oh, so is it cashew or cashew?
It's cashew.
Who
says cashew?
It's
Nobody says cashew.
Wait, it's cashew, but it's pecan?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, nobody says cashew.
It should be.
It sounds like you just sneezed.
It should be cashew and pecan.
No.
So candles also have a evil connotation. If the flame on a candle goes out and it happens to be Halloween, then you have a ghost visiting you.
Ooh.
So if you're sitting there and
if it's not Halloween, it doesn't mean have a ghost visiting you.
That's right.
Oh.
So you're fine if it's not Halloween. So bells on Halloween, when you ring a bell on Halloween, all the scary evil spirits are supposed to fly away.
Oh, they don't like the sound of the bells?
So if you get scared, just ring a bell.
Okay.
And owls. I love owls.
I like owls too. Owls are cool.
I think they're, I feel like I have a lot in common with an owl.
What's that?
I'm majestic, much like the owl. I'm nocturnal. I'm known to be wise.
Majestic.
So owls hooting is
a snow owl or a regular barn owl?
No, like an owl, like a nice looking owl.
You just want to hug an owl. They probably wouldn't like it if you hugged them.
No. Some people believe though that on Halloween owls would dive down, eat the souls of anyone that was dying that night. So
I tell you what, owls are vicious, man. They eat small creatures.
They do. They swoop down out of the darkness.
Yep.
So if you die on Halloween, an owl will come and eat your soul.
Oh, what does it do with it? Does it regurgitate it later?
What they tell you to do, though, is if you hear an owl hooting, is quickly pull out your pocket in your pants and leave your pocket hanging out, and that will...
well, I think you cut off the bottom of your pockets for other reasons.
That will scare the owl away.
That. Oh.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway.
So what do you think about that?
I think that's bizarre. I wonder why these folklorish beliefs start. Somebody starts it one day and then it just keeps.
People get scared, and when they don't have especially years and years ago, they didn't have an explanation for things. They didn't know how to look at things scientifically.
Yeah.
So they just came up with these weird superstitions and such.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What do you got?
Oh, we're done with that part?
Oh, for now.
So I want to talk back about some horror movies. Now, it's a tradition, it's propped up specifically in the last, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 years of watching horror movies around this time of year. I mean, horror movies are a business all year round.
Yeah.
But horror movies specifically are a big business this time of year. So some of the earliest examples of what we would call horror movies actually started off in a different medium. Did you know that?
What do you mean, like in the theater?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good guess.
All right.
So starting in the 1890s, the Grand Guignol in Paris would show a series of horror-themed plays, complete with elaborate special effects in a theater that used to be a church. So it was all full of these statues and Gothic architectures and all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of probably scary to go in there.
Yep.
People used to come to this theater for an experience, not only to see a show. So the audience endured the terror of the shows because they wanted to be filled with a strong feeling of something.
Ooh. Something feeling them?
Actually, here's where we get into the adult nature a little bit.
Okay.
Many attended the shows to get a feeling of arousal. Underneath the balcony were boxes that were originally built for nuns to watch church services that were available for theatergoers, that the theatergoers would rent them during performances because they would get so aroused by the action happening on stage that they would engage in sexual escapades during the shows.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. So here's where I got to use my French. Ready?
Oh, let me hear it.
So here's some of the plays that were shown.
Okay.
At the Grand Guignol.
Oh, Grand Guignol. Huh.
Le laboratoire de l'hallucination.
The laboratory of the, if you slowed it down, I could probably translate that.
Hallucination.
Oh, the laboratory of hallucinations.
That's right, by Andre Delorde. Here's the premise of that one. When a doctor finds his wife's lover in his operating room, he performs a graphic brain surgery, rendering the adulterer a hallucinating semi-zombie. Now insane, the lover/patient hammers a chisel into the doctor's brain. That makes me excited.
Wow.
That would make me want to engage in sexual escapades.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Un crime dans la maison des fous.
The cream of the house? The House of Cream?
Crime.
Oh, House of Cream.
House of Cream.
That sounds like a good movie.
And it does. I think I've seen that movie. Two hags in an insane asylum use scissors to blind a pretty young inmate out of jealousy.
Oh, this is a theater operation, huh? Wow. It's amazing.
Next one. Le horrible passion.
The wandering passion.
The horrible passion.
Oh.
Here's a nice one. A nanny strangles the children in her care. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
And
that's it for that one, right?
Yeah, that's it. No, there's one more.
Oh.
So here's another play that was found there. La baiser dans les nuits by Maurice Lavelle. A young woman visits the man whose face she horribly disfigured with acid, where he obtains his revenge. As you can see, these are more along the lines of a typical horror film would be today.
Right, right.
For a long time, Hollywood horror movies tended to be more focused on supernatural scares like vampires, werewolves, and Frankenstein. You know, like back in the early age of horror films.
Yep.
That's what most of them were focused on. But many people point to the origin of the true slasher form of horror movie can be traced to one man, an actual person. Do you know who that person might be?
Not Alfred Hitchcock.
No. A real-life serial killer by the name of Ed Gein.
Oh, yeah. That's loosely based Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You're stealing my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So don't do that.
Go
Don't
ahead.
jump ahead. So I stole some of this material from a couple of authors by the name of Harold Shyster and David Everett, so don't get mad at me.
Okay.
I didn't make all this up. So born in Plainfield, Wisconsin, 1906, Ed Gein lived a repressive and solitary life on his family homestead with a weak, ineffectual brother and a domineering mother who taught him from an early age that sex was sinful.
Yes.
He ran a 160-acre farm. To make a long story short, I'm not going to get into all of it, but basically, Gein, his mother died, his brother died, so he was left to run this whole farm by himself, and he was known as Weird Old Eddie. Anyway, before any of this took place,
there's an omen.
if your name is Weird Old Eddie, yeah. So he remained alone in an enormous farmhouse, and he lived in one room. He sealed off the rest of the house, and he lived in one downstairs room in the kitchen for some reason.
Oh.
So Weird Old Eddie, as the community known him, he began to develop a deeply unhealthy interest in the intimate anatomy of the female body.
Oh.
Which is
Don't we all?
Kind of gross. He became particularly interested in the atrocities committed by the Nazis during Second World War and medical experimentation performed on Jews in concentration camps.
So he became fixated on this sort of stuff.
That's correct. He soon graduated to the real thing by digging up decaying female corpses by night in far out of the way Wisconsin cemeteries. Then he would dissect and keep parts of the head, sex organs, livers, hearts, and intestines. Then, this is all pleasant, he would flay the skin from the body, draping it over a tailor's dummy or even wearing it himself to dance and cavort around the homestead. Doesn't that sound like a lot of fun?
Oh, put the lotion in the basket.
You're not supposed to do that, right?
No.
Actually, I should have given it a warning. This is kind of gross stuff. So
It
if
is
you have
graphic.
smaller kids listening, tell them to fast forward. Anyway. So he's specifically fascinated by excised female genitalia.
Excised?
Excised, like dissected and taken off.
Oh.
Like removed.
Eee.
So he would fondle and play with it, sometimes stuffing it into a pair of women's underwear, which he would then wear around the house. Not surprisingly, he became a recluse in the community, discouraging any visitors from coming near his home. So this is all taking place behind closed doors, and to this point, he's just taking dead bodies that have already been killed.
You know, just listening to you talk about this makes me realize that no matter how graphic or shocking they try to make a Hollywood movie,
It's never as bad as real life.
Exactly.
Never. No, you're absolutely right. So Gein's fascination with the female body eventually led him to seek out fresher samples. His victims, usually women of his mother's age, included a 54-year-old named Mary Hogan who disappeared from the tavern she ran in December 1954, and Bernice Warden, a woman in her late 50s who ran the local hardware store. She disappeared in November 1957. Mrs. Warden's son Frank was also the sheriff's deputy, and upon learning that Weird Old Eddie had been spotted in town on the day of his mother's disappearance, he became suspicious. He went to the place to check out Ed Gein's place, already infamous amongst the local children as a haunted house. So his mother went missing. He's a sheriff's deputy. He decides, I'm going to go check it out.
So he had a suspicion.
Yeah. So there, the gruesome evidence proved that Ed Gein's bizarre obsessions had finally exploded into murder, and actually much, much worse. In the woodshed of the farm, the naked, headless body of Bernice Warden hanging upside down from a meat hook was found. Her head and intestines were discovered in a box, and her heart on a plate in the dining room. The skins from 10 human heads were found preserved, and another skin taken from the upper torso of a woman was rolled up on the floor. Ew. There was also a belt fashioned from carved-off nipples, a chair upholstered in human skin, the crown of a skull used as a soup bowl, lampshades covered in flesh, pulled taut, a table propped up by human shin bones, and
how do you even come up with this?
A refrigerator full of human organs.
Oh my God.
The 4 posts on Ed's bed were covered with skulls, and a human head hung on the wall alongside 9 death masks, which are the skin faces of women.
You can't even wrap your head around that. You know, like when I'm home alone and, I'm looking for stuff to do, I can find things around the house, hobbies, chores. This guy just put body parts everywhere.
So Ed Gein later confessed that he enjoyed dressing himself up in all the skins and cavorting around, and he pretended that he was his own mother. So some of the things that you... to wrap up Mr. Gein, so estimated that they found 15 bodies at his house. Not sure how, he doesn't know how many he killed. They never proved how many people he killed or how many bodies where he just stole. They never really got to the bottom of that. But so obviously, you can see that some of the inspirations for horror movies were taken from this, and there's a few. So the first one that was widely credited with being based on Ed Gein was Psycho. Yeah. Because he had a domineering mother.
Right.
Obviously, in the movie Psycho, in the book, it was a book first, in the movie, the Alfred Hitchcock classic Psycho, he had a domineering mother and he killed people, but he wasn't like a prolific serial. He was just a nutbag that had a domineering mother. However, what's widely known as the first slasher film was the 1974 classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which you mentioned earlier, which... many aspects of the Ed Gein case can be seen. The skinning of bodies and wearing of the faces and junk like that. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre was loose. When Texas Chainsaw Massacre first came out in the 1970s, they said based on a true story. Yeah. So everybody thought, oh my gosh, there's a real guy named Leatherface who went around. And that's not actually the case. It was based on the Ed Gein.
Leatherface, one of the most iconic movie villains ever. Right. Like killers.
Right. So it was loosely based on the Ed Gein case. Yep. Although he didn't use a chainsaw because it was back in the day. Right. So other aspects of Ed Gein can be found in Silence of the Lambs, the Buffalo Bill character, where he skinned people. That's right. To make a suit out of the skin.
And he'd get all naked. Yeah. And dance around all weird like.
It puts the lotion on its skin. Yep. Or else it gets the hose again.
Anyway, so as you said before, truth is very much stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
Because, as you said, who could come up with this stuff for fiction? And it turns out you don't have to because somebody's already done it in real life.
So let me ask you this. How would you, say you were confronted by an Ed Gein type character. Yeah. How would you ward it off?
I would shoot him in the head.
How would you ward off an evil spirit, you think? You want to ward off evil?
I would love to.
So what they say is, traditionally, legend has it, just walk backwards around your house 3 times before the sunset on Halloween, and that would banish all evil.
Walking backwards is hard, especially around a perimeter of not a box.
That's right.
Different indentation. You have to follow the exact perimeter.
Yep, you do. You have to follow the perimeter, or you could just bury animal bones in your front yard, or put a picture of an animal outside near your front door. So that will help ward off evil spirits.
Pictures of animals do?
Yep, and animal bones buried.
I see.
Yep. If you happen to see a spider on Halloween, then the spirit of a loved one is watching over you. So if you're at Halloween and you see a big, a spider, do you kill spiders?
I try to avoid spiders when at all possible.
Oh, you do?
But I will kill it if it gets near me.
You will kill it?
Yeah, unless it's one of those really big ones, because I'm always afraid I'm just gonna anger it, and it's gonna come back and get me later if I don't kill it right away.
You know the banana spider. We're in Okinawa.
I'm familiar with the banana spider.
Giant spider, huge,
yes, huge.
Cover your whole face.
It's huge.
But they were docile. They wouldn't attack you. They wouldn't bite you, although they looked menacing. Mm-hmm. So how about you just talked about some real life nightmarish stuff, right? With the serial killer and Ed Gein and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. How about some real life Halloween nightmares, things that occurred on Halloween? Oh. So most famous of this case of this would be the Devil's Night.
Oh, the Devil's
We have all heard of Devil's Night, possibly. That's the name associated with October 30th, the night before Halloween. It's related to a mischief night, basically, and it's practiced in other parts of the United States and the world.
Isn't that big in Detroit?
Yes.
The Detroit area.
Yes, that's a perfect segue.
Oh.
Devil's Night in Detroit actually dates back to the 1930s, and traditionally, the youths of Detroit, the jewel of the Lower Peninsula, they engaged in a night of criminal behavior, which usually consisted of acts of mostly just vandalism initially. Like we talked about earlier, egging, soaping things, TPing.
Soaping.
Things of that sort. And these were almost exclusively acts of petty vandalism, causing no real property damage or anything like that. Lo and behold, Devil's Night got worse for some reason.
Bet it did. It's Detroit. Everything is worse.
Yeah. In the early 1970s, the vandalism that, the kids were taking part in escalated to arson. They decided they wanted to start burning things down for some reason. Obviously in the city of Detroit itself is it's a kind of a, how would you say, not the nicest city in the world to begin with.
Talking about Detroit?
Detroit.
Have you ever been to Detroit?
Just passing through the airport. I've never actually visited the city.
I had the privilege and opportunity to go to Detroit a couple of times last year. And let me tell you something. Driving through Detroit is akin to driving through a third world nation. Oh. There's abandoned vehicles all over the place. People wandering the streets in a daze.
Yeah,
I swear, it's like you're driving through Beirut, 1983.
Yeah,
when you're driving through Detroit, I don't know why.
So it's financially downtrodden, yeah. And so actually, this is kind of how this thing has escalated, right? So some of the property owners that were unable to sell their property and things of that such, they'd use that as an opportunity to burn their homes down, collect the insurance money, and claim that an arsonist was at fault, and then it just spiraled out of control from there. The crimes obviously became more destructive, and it peaked in the the mid 80s to mid 90s, and I think 1994 was one of the worst nights. Well, Devil's Night ever.
Devil's Night was actually featured prominently in the Crow movie.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
The Crow.
Yeah, that's right. But 1994, Detroit city officials had enough. They said no more Devil's Night. This is out of control. So they decided they were going to get some volunteers to help them quell this madness. They got like 50,000 people, actually, volunteers, to come out, and they basically were the guardian angels of Devil's Night. They created Angels Night.
How did that work?
Well, they went around. They kept people at bay. Mm-hmm. They prevented some of the miscreants from getting out and doing different things.
Arson is a terrible crime. Fires are bad anyway, but set one on purpose. Do you know what the 18th century punishment for being caught in the act of arson was, especially in colonial America?
Yes, they would make you turn your clothes inside out and walk backwards at midnight.
No, they would throw you into the fire that you just set. That was the punishment.
But you know what? People still did it.
They did it anyway.
So it's funny because in other places of the world, Devil's Night is also sometimes called Cabbage Night.
Oh.
So cabbage.
I hate cabbage.
You don't like cabbage?
It stinks.
Well,
it smells badly.
And it smells badly on the other end as well.
It doesn't taste good.
It gives you flatulence.
Cabbage soup.
I don't think I've ever had cabbage, to be honest. Maybe in a slaw.
My lovely wife, every St. Patrick's Day, makes corned beef and cabbage.
Yep.
And no one eats the cabbage. It just boils stinkily, and no one eats it. And it's just a waste of a fine vegetable.
Yeah. I don't eat that. But like I said, I'll have it in a slaw form. A coleslaw.
Well, coleslaw is different because it's filled with mayonnaise, goodness.
That's right, and there's other things in there. I'll eat that. But speaking of things that you shouldn't eat, that would be candy laced with things. And that's the traditional Halloween legend is that you check your candy because you don't want to eat pins and broken glass and razor blades.
And things. Yep.
But honestly, I don't believe, I could be wrong here, but I don't believe there's ever been a recorded case of anybody
that's where
encountering that.
That's where you're slightly wrong and slightly right.
Oh.
Yes, that's true. The widespread poisoning of stranger candy is actually, I don't think has ever happened. However, there was a famous case back in the 1980s in Texas, Pasadena, Texas, actually.
Yep.
Where a man poisoned his own son's candy with strychnine and killed him.
Oh.
But that was a person that he knew, and he did it on purpose, and then he tried to blame a stranger for it, and then they ended up finding him. So it was a nut bar killed his own kid.
Sure.
But as far as it's poisoning candy, you don't
hear about that. And even if that kind of thing, like a razor blade in your Snicker bar, I think you'd notice that. And if you didn't,
well,
you get it in your mouth. It wouldn't kill you.
No, but the the phenomenon is so widespread, or the supposed phenomenon is so widespread that hospitals will actually X-ray your candy for you for free.
So what's worse, getting a piece of a razor blade in your mouth or having your food irradiated?
I don't know, but you know what's funny? They'll do that. They'll X-ray your candy for free. But God forbid you try to get something on your body X-rayed. Oh. It takes an act of Congress.
Yep.
You got to get 3 weeks to get an appointment. Then you have to go there and wait all afternoon. Then they treat you like crap. You get your X-ray 3 days later. By then you're all bent out of shape and crying.
You know, I had an MRI recently on my on my right wrist.
They should have given you a CAT scan.
I had a wrist issue
at the same time.
They make you lay down. They made me lay down on my stomach.
Yep.
With my arm outstretched like Superman, and grasping this thing, and it was like a torture device. I had this thing around my hand, and I was in there. I said, "How long is this going to take?" I was in there for like 40 minutes.
When did the anal probe come in?
My whole body went numb. It was bad. But the technicians were young ladies. That was cool.
They didn't put you unconscious?
No.
When you woke up, they weren't buttoning their pants or anything?
Oh, thank God.
Oh.
So I'll leave you with this. One last Halloween story, candy story, if you will.
Sure.
So in my neighborhood growing up, we lived on a dead end, and there was a guy at the end of the road. I think his name was Ernie. I'm not sure though. He lived at the last house on the left.
That's a movie, you know.
People didn't like going down there, but we'd go down there anyway. And he gave out. This is what he gave out for candy, right? For the treat when you said trick or treat. Full size Kudos bars. You remember Kudos?
It was a chocolate covered granola bar.
It was like a granola bar with the chocolate and everything.
Yes.
He must have just bought a box of Kudos.
Well, no one went to Ernie's house. That's why he had to reward.
But
you.
I was afraid to eat the Kudos bar.
Oh.
So I'd bring it home, and of course my brother, who was a rotund young man, who would eat anything presented to him, agreed to eat the Kudos bar because I was afraid something was hidden in it, and I didn't know what it was. And so I traded him some, maybe some Twizzlers and some Necco wafers for a Kudos bar, and he ate it.
What's a good percentage for parent tax? You know, when your kids go trick or treating and they bring all the candy, you get a certain percentage, right?
Well, I just usually steal it when they're at school.
Oh, so you don't even tell them up front?
No, I don't tell them.
See, we tell them, hey, we're going to be parent tax. I say like 20, 25%.
Oh.
It's about
See, I
right.
like this. I take the Skittles, the regular Skittles.
Yep.
I like those.
Yep.
Starbursts are good.
You don't do the Reese's peanut butter cups?
I don't like Reese's peanut butter. I do enjoy occasionally the malted milk ball.
That's gross.
And,
the Whopper? I don't like the
Whopper. And you know what else is good? Milk Duds.
No.
You know what I like to do?
They get caught in your teeth.
It's like a Milk Dud challenge. So I'll take a whole box of Milk Duds. I'll put the whole thing in my mouth at once. Box included.
I've heard that about you.
And I'll chew it up and try to choke myself to death.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about some Halloween things today. Hopefully, some of the stuff is lighthearted. Some of the stuff was gross.
Yeah.
But we were able to get into some of the topics related to Halloween. And as I said before, it's a festive time of year. If you ever find yourself in a position to visit Salem in Massachusetts in October, please do. It's a lot of fun, even though they're not sponsors of the program.
Yeah, and if you've had any interesting Halloween experiences, or you've looked in a mirror and seen something appear behind you,
we would love to hear from you.
You'd like to share that story? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. If you've had a Halloween experience, anything related to that, please let us know. Contact us via the website, which is TheEoNProject.com, or TheEoNProject@yahoo.com, or you can interact with us on Twitter. I'm all the time on Twitter, sending out tweeted.
Yeah, you tweeted the twittering around.
Tweeted it out.
Yes.
So,
and of course the Facebook, that's the obligatory as well.
And we're also looking for sponsors for the program. So if you have a small business, a large business, a multinational conglomerate business,
we're not even going to charge you.
Well, we will charge you if you're a multinational business. We will.
Well, just get our name out there. We'll do all the production for free.
Yep.
We'll do all the production for you. We'll make the music. We'll write the commercial. We'll present the commercial.
Yeah. And best wishes to Frank from the Door Store. Hopefully your recovery goes well.
You know what we should do? We'll try to get Frank on the phone next week.
That's a good idea. Maybe we can see how he's doing.
We'll talk to him on the phone and see how Frank's doing and what he's up to, and hopefully he can recover from this.
Yeah.
So you got anything else to add for today?
That's it, man.
What are we doing next week?
Next week's program is up in the air. Not quite sure what we're going to discuss next week, but if you have an idea for a plan, send us an email.
Absolutely.
We're glad to hear from you.
Yep. So just remember, the truth exists.